Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is December 31st. Happy New Year's to everyone out there. I know it's going to be a wild night for most of the folks here in the chat and listening to this back later. Everybody be safe out there. Obviously, as we ring in the new year, I'll probably be asleep by the time the ball drops. And we'll get this thing kicked off right tomorrow early in the morning. So we got an awesome little show for you guys and gals. Sorry we went a little later. I had set it for 1 o'clock, and then a bunch of news broke, obviously, and trying to get enough together here so we could cover everything that's important. I had a little bit of an article put together, and we're going to continue to hit it. If you guys are in the Patreon group over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, you guys have already seen it. What I'm going to do as we inch toward the offseason is we're going to workshop, kind of a community workshop, if you will. You guys can comment in there and give your input and all that as well. How to fix the Green Bay Packers going into 2026. Now, I think many of us would agree, you get healthy, you probably fix the Packers. However, you're always looking to make the team better in the offseason. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's nothing in between, right? So we'll talk about the first step in that with the tier 1 position of 3-tech, defensive tackle, and kind of dive into that information. We'll also talk about some breaking news where the Packers signed a quarterback. We'll give you all the details on that. Looks eerily similar to Malik Willis in terms of rankings and where they were kind of seen coming into the draft in 2022, same draft class and everything. Really a lot of commonalities there. We'll dive into that. We'll also give you an update, some bad news on Nate Hobbs and Zane Anderson and their injury updates. So trying to put that stuff together for you all last second. That's why we're going live late. But before we do, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. I want to apologize for the sniffling, the coughing. I'll be honest with you. As I was reading the intro just now, thinking, I don't know how we're going to get through this. So we'll do the best we can. Obviously, you could hear it in my voice. We're still feeling pretty bad out here. So let's waste no time. Let's get into the first part here. And I was going to do the breaking news first, but instead, we're going to jump into the little community workshop here with defensive tackle. I think this is so important. And again, you guys can find this over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It's the best way to support what we do here at PTA. $3 get you access to everything there, all the chats. We'll be doing a ton of draft coverage in there, putting together scouting reports, draft boards. You guys will have a link to our draft board so you can kind of see it built in real time. So if you want to support the channel and get some extra content, that's the way to do that over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You can also DM me over there and kind of keep up with everything that way as well. So you guys know I break a roster down into tiers of importance, right? You got tier 1 positions and tier 2 positions, and then everything after that. Tier 1 positions, there's essentially 4 to 5 positions, depending on how you want to look at the offensive tackle position. But quarterback, offensive tackle, which is left tackle and right tackle. Okay, those are the tier 1 positions of importance on offense, in my opinion. On defense, it's 3-tech, defensive tackle, right? 3-tech, pass rushing defensive tackle, and edge defender are the 2 tier 1 importance. Now, when you go to tier 2 on offense, I include center in tier 2. And then tier 2 on defense, I include mock linebacker, middle linebacker, stack backer, whatever you want to say, and post safety. Okay. And again, safeties are very interchangeable today. So it's not like you can just go, okay, that guy's going to play post all the time with all the sugaring that goes on across the league. So with that being said, we're going to focus on the first tier 1 position here that I think is a huge need. Anybody who followed our draft coverage last year, I felt like this last year. So this is no surprise. It's still a huge need, in my opinion. And that is defensive tackle. That's 3-tech. All right. Now, again, we're not saying that this is more important than offensive line. I honestly think I would prioritize offensive line first, but the defense has been a big talking point here lately across social media and really everybody in the chat and everybody in between, because there's some really interesting stuff that's happening with the defense right now. I'm gonna give a shout out to Jeffrey Coleman, became a new member here. Appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you for joining up, buddy. You guys can be a member here on YouTube as well. It's another way to support the channel. Jason Y with the super chat. Thank you, Jason. He says, on the Mason Crosby show, they said Green Bay ranks dead last in defensive plays per drive and time of possession per drive when on defense. That is true, Jason. Now, here's the funny thing to me is, have you guys ever heard anyone highlight those two specific stats? I never have. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong to do so, but I have never heard anyone say, yeah, boy, we're ranked really good or really bad in defensive plays per drive and time of possession per drive when on defense. Usually you're talking about, all right, obviously points scored, turnover differential is huge, running defense, passing defense. It's a passing league. Anytime you mention run defense, people will say, it's more about passing defense than run defense. I think it's all important. And I think these two statistics are important as well. It's just funny that kind of surfaced this year, right? I think it's huge too. I do, that they rank dead last in those. So again, if you look at this defense, I'm still amazed that there's no one that's calling for Jeff Hafley's job, right? It's all about Matt LaFleur's job. And that's kind of mind-boggling to me, to be honest with you, because what did we do this offseason? I mean, we went and got Micah Parsons. You kind of sowed a little bit of the future to go get Micah Parsons. And again, when you rank last in those over the course of the year, it's not like, oh, this is all went to crap since Micah left. There's been bright points with Micah on the roster, obviously, and I'm not dogging Micah. Micah's a great addition. He's an elite player, one of the best. It looks like he's a generational talent. Give me 2 or 3 more years of what he's already done, and we will be saying he's a Hall of Famer, right? I think we would all agree with that. But again, I'm not calling for Jeff Hafley's job either. I'm simply saying people calling for Matt LaFleur's job, but not Hafley's. And Hafley's defense, you guys remember going into the season, I kind of said, expect this defense to take a step back. Then you add Micah Parsons, and it kind of stabilizes a little bit. Then Micah goes down with an injury, and you're seeing the defense take a step back now, right? Now, I didn't expect it to get as bad as it did, but I also didn't expect us to get as banged up as we've been. I mean, it seems like every single game, there's multiple starters that have to lead the game or are out for multiple games, right? Like, missing Evan Williams, Quay Walker for a few games. Although I will say it felt like the defense got better when Quay Walker was not in the lineup and Isaiah McDuffie was in there. I'm not saying that definitively. I'm just, kind of looking at it from a broad perspective. It felt that way. But nonetheless, appreciate the super chat, Jason. Thank you for pointing those stats out there, buddy. So let's talk about the defensive tackles that are currently on the roster. And again, this is so important in my opinion. Try to get it zoomed in here a little bit. Notice the PFF grades. And we're not only just going to cover PFF, we're going to cover a lot of stuff, okay? Defensive tackle, these are interior defenders, according to PFF. Look at their defensive grades. At the top of the list, Devontae Wyatt, 52.1. His strength, obviously, is pass rush, 71.4. His tackle grade is 76.8. But the run fit, 38.7. Boy, it's rough. That's rough, guys. Seems like he might have even taken a step back in run defense this year. Again, he's banged up. Got to get him back. You already got him on a 5th-year option next year. He will be back. So that, to me, it seems like with Devontae Wyatt and the 5th-year option, you've kind of built the basement a little bit, right? You've got kind of I don't want to say a high floor, but a stable floor there. Now you need to go out and try to find the next 3 tech of the future, and you may re-sign Devontae Wyatt to a 3 or a 4-year deal. I'm okay with that. It still doesn't mean you stop looking for a 3 tech. It's so important. And that's why last year when we dug into the draft, I'm going, man, this is a heavy, heavy 3 tech draft. Like, it kind of makes sense to me to grab a 3 tech in the first round. And then, of course, Matthew Golden's sitting there, and we were all excited about the pick. Still am. I think Matthew Golden's going to be a great football player. All the advanced analytics suggest that. But with that being said, Devontae Wyatt at the top of the list, 52.9. Next, Kobe Wooden, another guy who's under contract next year, 50.2. Carl Brooks, 47.5. Nazir Stackhouse, 46.0. Quentin Bohanna, 44.9. Warren Brinson, 44. Although look at the pass rush grade of 68. Okay, and we'll talk about pressure percentage in a second. And then Jordan Riley, 34.7. So again, when you look at the defensive tackle position, guys, and specifically you try to filter out the Kobe Wooden, who is your nose, right? Carl Brooks is kind of a 3-tech. So essentially your 3-techs are Devontae White and Carl Brooks. Now, Carl can play the nose as well, but Nazir Stackhouse, I think, is in-house to do that. Warren Brinson's more of a 3-tech. So really your top 3-techs are Devontae White at 52.9. You've got Carl Brooks at a 47.5 and Warren Brinson at 44.0. Kind of wish we'd have swung last year on 3-tech, But again, if ifs were fists, we'd all be drunk. Right. So let's go to quarterback pressure percentage. Now, you're going to see some edge defenders mixed in here because of the way the NFL Pro does their data. There's no way to differentiate between the inside defenders, the defensive tackles, the big boys up front, and the edge defenders. So we'll just throw these guys out. But Rashawn Gary is still leading the Packers in quarterback pressure percentage, other than Micah, who's listed as a linebacker because, he does a lot of floating around. Micah, hands down, is your best, pressure guy, obviously, when he's healthy. Rashawn Gary is second on the team at 12.1 pressures. He's second on the team with 7.5 sacks, behind our boy Micah Parsons. So once again, I know people like the dog Gary, but at the end of the year, you look up and you go, I'll be damned. If Micah wasn't on the team, Gary's leading your defensive line in run stops. He's leading your defensive line in sacks. And he's leading your defensive line in pressure percentage. So, again, we're going to talk about edge later. That's another important position. Let's key in on 3-tech. All right. So, LVN, he can play 3-tech. He's played a little bit of 3-tech, but he's more of that cheetah 3-tech. When we go with the cheetah package where there's 3 pass rushers, 1 big boy in the middle, Lucas Van Ness has been that 3-tech when he's healthy. Only 248 snaps, but 11.2 quarterback pressure percentage. LVN, I'm a believer. I think he's that dude. I think he's going to be that dude. And when he gets more snaps, if he can stay healthy, now, just like 3-tech, does that mean you stop swinging for elite edge defenders? If you got a guy that falls in the second round to you, because it's our first pick this year, if you've got the best guy available on the board as an edge defender and there's no 3-tech in the same grouping there, there's no offensive lineman in the same grouping there in terms of a cluster of similar grades or same grades as the edge defender is sitting there, hell yes, you take another swing at edge defender. Because you cannot have too many tier 1 positions of importance. The same thing goes, as bad as I hate to say it, quarterback. If you've got a quarterback that let's say you had a first round grade on a quarterback that fell to the 3rd round, you're spending that 3rd round pick on that first round grade quarterback. That's happening. Okay. And again, assuming that Malik Willis will walk in free agency, which I think that's probably what's going to happen, unfortunately. We'll get into that here in a minute when we talk about the quarterback we signed. Okay. But so quarterback pressure percentage in terms of big boys. There's Kingsley Enagbare, again, another edge defender, 10.4%. Warren Brinson, 8.7%. So Warren Brinson is your leading 3-tech in quarterback pressure percentage. People are going, whoa, what about Wyatt? Yeah, Wyatt's at 7.7. The numbers are the numbers. And again, this is GPS tracking. You can go watch every one of those pressures. You can go click on that 16 pressures by Devontae Wyatt there. It'll show you every pressure, just like it'll show you Warren Brinson, all 10 of his. And you can, decide for yourself whether or not it was a good pass rush win or not. But nonetheless, that's why I choose NFL Pro over PFF, because PFF just says, trust us, bro. NFL Pro says, here's the specific plays, and you can go watch the tape. So next in line, like I said, Warren Brinson, Devontae Wyatt, and then Carl Brooks is down here at 5.6%. So again, when you're looking at 3-tech, if you were to just go specifically off of quarterback pressure percentage, Warren Brinson is your leading pass rusher at 8.7%. It's wild to think about, right? Devontae Wyatt's going to be getting paid $12 million. You guys know about the friendly wager that me and Chris the Casual in had this year, where I said I thought that they would put a 5th-year option on one of the 2 players there, either Quay Walker or Devontae Wyatt. However, my personal opinion was I would not do that. Again, the bet was, would Goody do that? And precedent kind of leaned me over into, yes, he'll definitely put a 5th-year option on one of those 2 guys, and obviously in Devontae Wyatt to the tune of $12 million against the cap next year, fully guaranteed. Now, you can look at that one of 2 ways. You can go, boy, he's getting overpaid, ain't he? Don't you think he's getting overpaid? He can't stay healthy. He's not, he's not even our best interior pass rusher according to quarterback pressure percentage, right? Now, if you count sacks, yes, he's leading for 4 sacks, but that's not like, setting the world on fire. And again, you can't make the club in the tub. And the 2 most important abilities are availability and accountability. I think he's got accountability, but he just can't stay available, So again, would you rather, go pay $6 million to 2 different players, take 2 swings on a couple of players that you feel a little bit better at? Now, defensive tackle isn't that cheap, but what they've done here is they've kind of, like we said, they tried to raise that floor a little bit with Devontae White. I think their goal is to go try to find another interior pass rusher. So that's how that sits right now in terms of, and again, Colby Wooden, when you see the 3.7% pressure rate, you go, whoa, that's horrible. Keep in mind, Colby Wooden's playing a lot of nose. Okay. So again, that's a lot of A gap, one tech, touch spy. That's what he's doing the majority of the time. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Kind of like Kenny last year. We're going, what happened with Kenny Clark's pressure? That's why he was playing that one tech touch spy. Now, let's talk about stopping the run. Let's go to stops. Look who's leading the way. Colby Wooden. That's a good number, guys. 35 stops on 281 run defense snaps. Colby Wooden has been good against the run. So again, is he a great player? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. However, with him being leading the team in stops, that's kind of like the floor in your run game. All right. So you've got Colby Wooden at one tech nose, right? And you got Devontae White at three tech in the pass rush. Really, Warren Brinson's outplaying him, but you already paid the money. You guaranteed the money to White for 1 year for $12 million. It is what it is. Now, when you look at the stops, however, Devontae White is second with 20 stops. That's a good number for White. And this is why it's important to cross-check. When you go and look at PFF, his run defense grade, his run fit's horrible. His tackle grade's through the roof, right? So with the run D grade, and again, PFF doesn't really specify, well, here's why he's getting a lower run defense grade, even though his tackle grade's through the roof. You just assume it's run fit. They're trying to decide what was his gap responsibility, how well did he play his gap, did he keep gap integrity, on and on, right? So that number, in my opinion, isn't bad for the snaps of 148 snaps. Now, there might be a couple of stops sprinkled in with maybe a screen pass, or maybe he runs down the quarterback or what have you, but most of it, the large majority, has to do with stopping the run. Carl Brooks with 17, LVM with 15, and then, of course, you got Warren Brinson with 9. So you see Warren Brinson significantly lower. He only had 94 snaps, but I think Warren Brinson and Devontae White are your three techs right now. With Carl Brooks, it is what it is, man. He's had his opportunity, and it just hasn't worked out. He's made a couple flashy plays, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's the answer moving forward. Now, when you look at the current contract situation of three techs, this is what we got. 2025, you see all these players are under contract right here. Now, let's move to 2026. Devontae White, $12.9 million. You might as well call it $13 million. That's 4% of the cap. Again, I would not have done that, but I predicted that Goody would do that, right? As Chris says here in the chat, those Krispy Kreme are hot and ready, Clayton. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, well, like I said, I've got so much stuff, man. We got some more cards we need to give away. I'm below the surface of the water here, man, trying to keep up with all the stuff I'm trying to do on the channel. I got to get more organized, and the answer is going to be we got to bring on some staff, I believe. And anyway, Colby Wooden. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you not forgetting, buddy. That was the bet we had. If you guys are going, well, y'all talking about Krispy Kreme. Colby Wooden, 1.2 against the cap this year, 1.3 against the cap next year. It's great that arguably your best run defending defensive tackle is back next year. Again, that floor is set, so you're good to go there, right? Carl Brooks is back next year. You'll probably have him on the roster, although I would not consider it something where he might not be a cap casualty if you go out and you're able to bolster the three tech, right? So next, Warren Brinson, rookie, right? Under contract for the next 4 years, including this year, of course, 900,000, 1 million, 1.1, 1.2. I love the fact that he's going to grow into that role. They may see him as the three tech of the future. He may come out next year and just blow up, guys. That's possible, but you can't rest on your laurels and expect him to do that going into next year. You got to continue to make your roster better in the most important spots, right? Nazir Stackhouse, $848K, 1 million, 1.1 million. Then he's a restricted free agent. Jordan Riley, we've got him under contract for 2 years, this year and next year. Obviously 1.1 on the cap next year. And then Jonathan Ford, we just added, he's built like Nazir Stackhouse. So again, when you look at the one techs, this is what you're thinking. Colby Wooden, right? Nazir Stackhouse and Jonathan Ford. You can make a case that you need a one tech. You can make a case that you need a nose tackle on this team as well. Although I like the way Colby played this year. I was pleasantly surprised, even though PFF strongly disagreed. Now, let's talk about what's the potential answers, right? And again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's early. Some of these guys may come back to college. This is the early projection. The consensus big board right now, these are the players that it has listed as the top prospects. Peter Woods out of Clemson, he's 13 overall. Caden McDonald out of Ohio State, 28. Caleb Banks out of Florida, 32nd. Amari Washington out of Oregon, he's 35th. Kristen Miller, Kristen Miller, defensive lineman out of Georgia, is 42nd. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech is 72nd. Dominic Orange is 78th. Those are the prospects in the top 100 as it sits right now. Okay. So again, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 prospects in the top 100. That these are listed as interior defensive linemen. Sometimes edge defenders get mixed in, and sometimes interior defensive linemen get mixed in with the edge because they played maybe more snaps at a 7 tech or a 5 tech as opposed to a 3 or a 1. We'll dive into all that as we get a little bit deeper into the draft process. When you look at the PFF grades, let's see if it lines up the same way. And again, this is their draft board order. You'll see what they're ranked there according to PFF on the left. So the consensus big board has Peter Woods, Caden McDonald, and Caleb Banks as the top 3. PFF has Peter Woods, Caleb Banks, then Caden McDonald. So very, very similar in that regard. You can see the PFF grades underneath or to the side there and how well they perform. There's Kristen Miller. Kristen Miller's the one that grabs my attention the most. Look at the size. 6'4", 310, but look at the PFF grades, 69, 82, 83, solid out of Georgia. We know we like our Georgia boys. Is there a chance he falls to the second round? Is there a chance that maybe Goody climbs up and takes him, trades up back into the first round and maybe takes him there? It's possible. Again, this is just a very, very, very early look at what the prospects look like. Another avenue that you could potentially fix this, right, is potential free agents. Now, I've done a couple different things. First, we sorted by projected market value. To me, this tells me when I looked at projected market value and the comps and the way that they determine this, again, nothing's ever going to be perfect. If it was that easy, no team would miss on any free agents or any prospects. But when you look at how this is laid out here, these are the players that based off of their performance and their comps to other players in the league, they are valued higher than everyone else. At the top of the list, Calais Campbell. Remember, we talked about him this past year, like, man, why not bring him in? Obviously, that goes against everything that Goody stands for, being him being almost 40 years old. I don't want him to do that this year, but last year, imagine if you had Calais Campbell on the team right now. You feel a little bit better about that interior defensive line, right? And if he's healthy, again, we're not going to take the time to dive into whether somebody got hurt or not, but that's a player we briefly mentioned, like a one-year deal. Why not bring him in? But he's projected at $10.9 million. David Onyemata, defensive lineman, 33 years old, $8 million. Logan Hall is the one that really kind of grabs your attention. I'll explain why in a minute. 25 years old. He'll be 26 next year. $8 million is his projected value. Okay. Only 25 years old. Like we said, Jonathan Franklin Myers out of Denver, 29 years old, $7.5 million. You notice the ages here, guys. With the market value, 39, 33, 25, 29, 30, 36, 28, 28, 32, 31. People are going to see these ages and go, nope, too old, too old, too old, too old. I get it, but where's the 25-year-old that's walking through that door that's not named Logan Hall? And again, with Logan Hall's age and him being an unrestricted free agent this year, assuming that's the case and they didn't hit him with a fifth-year option or something. And that's the other thing I don't like to get into early in the process is because some of these players won't be available. Right? Like they will get re-signed by their team. So we try to wait to the last second. It's just an early look at it and why I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. Now, if you sort it by previous average annual value, you got David Onyemata leading the way at $11.6 million, even though his market value is $8 million. What's that tell you? He's underperformed the current contract, right? DJ Reader, same thing with the Lions, $11 million. His market value is only 3.8, on and on and on. But again, when you go down with the previous average annual value, that kind of gives you an idea of what players have been paid. And then when you look at that number in the red on the right, the market value, that kind of shows you whether they were underpaid or overpaid. Calais Campbell, $5.5 million. Raise your hand if you would love to have had Calais Campbell on this defense for $5.5 million this year, knowing that his market value projects at 10.9 going into a year where he's going to be 40 years old. Oh, it sucks, right? So now let's talk about the youngest. There's one player here. This is the way when you sort by age, you see 24, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 26, 26, on and on, right? But notice there's only one player where the market value projects on the right side. That is like a bullseye. That's like sighting in that rifle at the range. You go, okay, age, check, market value projection because of comps, check. Right? When you look at the PFF grades, I looked at him. I think he was like a 68. Not great. But again, teams will overpay for a 3-tech because it's that important. And maybe Logan Hall is more of a 1-tech. Maybe he's more of a nose or whatever. We'll look into that a little bit deeper into into the offseason. So again, in my personal opinion, when you look at this 3-tech spot on this Packers front, it should be one of the top priorities. Once again, it should be a top priority. And especially in a 4-3. If you're in a 34, you're getting big 300-plus pounders to play 2 gaps, and they're just kind of holding the point of attack. You can kind of limit. You don't need necessarily a fast guy. You need somebody who can hold the point of attack and press the pocket a little bit if you need him to. In a 4-3, it's totally different. More 1 gap unless you're playing a 2-back offense. You guys know we talk about it all the time. So, again, that's how I would look to fix this defense right off the bat is you got to find a way to bring in a 3-tech. And you notice they're not falling off trees. That's why when you get a draft that's heavy with 3-techs, your boy was over here preaching to the choir saying, why not go get a 3-tech? Why not go get a 3-tech? Now, the argument is we did. We got Warren Brinson. Seems like a pretty good pick in my opinion. I just don't think he's going to be dominant. At least nothing that we've seen to this point suggests he's going to be dominant. So with that being said, if you guys are watching this video back later, let me know in the comments how you feel about the 3-tech position. Am I putting too much value on it? You guys may disagree in that regard. Let us know in the comments how you feel about that position and what direction you would go. Would it be free agent? Would it be draft? Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. All right. Let's shift gears now and talk about some breaking news as the Packers have added another quarterback into the fold here, okay? And this is an interesting one for me. We've actually got some personal ties to this particular player. I don't know him personally, but we know some of his close family, I guess you could say. We'll just leave it at that. But his name is Desmond Ridder, and he's out of Cincinnati. Okay, he played for Cincinnati in college. You guys know he played for the Atlanta Falcons for, I think, a couple of years. I want to say he's most recently with the Vikings on their practice squad. But the news broke just a little while ago. The Packers add another quarterback while Love and Willis heal up. Rob Demovsky broke the news here and said the Packers are bringing in quarterback Desmond Ridder. As Tom Pelissero said, we should get an update on Jordan Love's concussion protocol and Malik Willis's shoulder from Matt LaFleur at the top of the hour. So we will try to get you guys that information. We may do another episode here in a little bit. It might be tomorrow with it being New Year's. However, the Packers are bringing in Desmond Ridder. Now, what's your all's thoughts on Desmond Ridder in the comments? Like, I know immediately people probably go, well, he sucks. Why are you bringing him in, right? Why is he bouncing around to different teams? Well, he had a high draft grade, right? He was projected to be pretty high in the draft. Well, that don't mean anything. They said the same thing about Malik Willis, right? I'm preaching to the choir here, right? Like I'm preaching to the choir. I'm talking to myself here because when we brought in Malik Willis, I was like, man, he was projected high, but he ain't done nothing. I was look at what LaFleur was able to do with him. Guys, think about what LaFleur's done throughout his career. Yeah, I know people want to run his ass out of town, but think about this. Washington, he was the quarterback coach for RG3, who ended up being Rookie of the Year. What did RG3 do after Matt LaFleur left? Nothing. No, the injury, I got you. That kind of, set his career off and all that. Completely understand. But what did he do after Matt LaFleur left? Okay, we'll just throw that one out the window. Matt LaFleur goes to Atlanta. What happened to Matt Ryan when Matt LaFleur was in Atlanta? He won an MVP, right? Well, he wasn't the only coach there, Clayton. I got you. Let's throw that one out the window too. All right. Matt LaFleur goes to the LA Rams with Sean McVay. What did he do with Jared Goff? Jared Goff had one of his best statistical years in LA, and they actually went to the freaking Super Bowl where they were beaten by the New England Patriots. And Tom Brady's I think that was his final Super Bowl, if I remember correctly. So, he gets the most out of Jared Goff, right? When Matt LaFleur was there. And I want to say Matt LaFleur was the OC there, but I think Sean McVay was still calling plays. So Matt was really, you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, he's working with Jared Goff specifically, right? So then he goes to Tennessee, and Tennessee's numbers weren't great that year. And then the Packers hired Matt LaFleur from Tennessee. I remember when they hired Matt LaFleur, they fired Mike McCarthy. I was going, who is this guy? You immediately go to Tennessee Titans offensive numbers, right? They were cheeks. Like, it was like middle of the road to cheeks. Like, what are we doing? You dig a little deeper and you go, wow. Everywhere he's went, he's made quarterbacks better. So again, RG3 could have been a fluke. Matt Ryan could have been a fluke. Jared Goff could have been a fluke. He goes to Green Bay. What happens? I remember, guys, like it was yesterday. People were ready to run Aaron Rodgers' ass out of town. It's time to move on. It's done for Aaron Rodgers. And this new regime will probably run Aaron Rodgers out, right? That was a lot of the conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. What happened? Matt LaFleur comes in, Aaron Rodgers wins back-to-back MVPs, and they win, 3 straight years, 13 games. Jordan Love takes over for Aaron Rodgers. Well, now Aaron Rodgers is here. Let's see what Matt LaFleur does. What's Matt LaFleur done? Oh, I don't know. Every year that Jordan Love's been the starting quarterback, they've went to the playoffs. Jordan Love was a top 3 to top 5 quarterback this year. He was in the MVP conversation several times. So now he's taken, again, RG3, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. That's 5 different quarterbacks that you can see them improve significantly when he arrives, right? So now you got Malik Willis, who nobody else in the league was willing to trade a 7th-round pick for a former prospect that was projected as the highest quarterback in the draft, right? We'll talk a little bit more on this. I'm going to come back to that in a second. This was the projected draft class in 2022, according to, once again, the consensus big board. Look who the top quarterback was, guys. This is all of the sports media, like the main people. The consensus big board takes their big boards and compiles it together and goes, okay, this is what the consensus thinks about these quarterbacks. Malik Willis was the number 10 overall prospect out of Liberty. Okay. He ends up falling to however far he fell before Tennessee drafted him. Kenny Pickett was number 2. Desmond Ridder was number 3. Matt Corral was number 4. Sam Howell was number 5. And then you're outside of the top 50. So we took what was projected to be the 10th best prospect in the draft, who went to Tennessee and did absolutely nothing. We took him and turned him into, according to PFF, and I'm not saying I agree with it completely, an elite quarterback in Malik Willis. So now you go get the 3rd best quarterback in that draft. Is he going to be Malik Willis? Absolutely not. Malik Willis is a rare talent, elite athleticism, all that, right? So again, you've got your quarterback guru coach who done this with Malik, which, by the way, they're going to flip him. They're going to flip Malik Willis from a 7th-round pick to whatever the comp ends up being. If a team's willing to pay a lot of money, I don't know what the maximum comp pick is you could get. I don't see a situation where they could tag him with the franchise tag and trade him. That's just going to be too many hoops to jump through in terms of clearing the cap space to have the cap space to be able to do that in time to trade him away and get compensation. Never say never, but never. I got you. But I think it's probably going to be most likely that either they strike a deal with him and they make him one of the highest, if not the highest paid backup quarterbacks in the league, which I would be okay with, to the tune of about $10 million. I'd be all right with that. I think he's worth that as a backup quarterback. Or you could see him hitting free agency, getting a good deal, and the Packers get a comp pick. That's most likely the 2 scenarios, in my opinion. But again, Desmond Ridder, to sit here and pretend like Desmond Ridder was a bad quarterback coming out of college, guys, everybody loved Desmond Ridder coming out of college. They did. So we'll see how that shakes out. Now, moving along, let's talk about his PFF grades since he got in the league. They're cheeks, guys. 2022, 55, 51, 45. He's gotten worse every year. Now, it was Atlanta, and then Vegas. All right. Now, you guys know coaching changes and this and that, regime changes all across the board. I got you. You look at that and go, there's no way he's going to pan out to be a decent quarterback if the Packers decide to make him the backup like Malik Willis once Malik Willis is gone. Well, here were Malik Willis's grades. 51, 45. Matt LaFleur gets a hold of him. It jumps to a 70. And then this year, 92.3. Do you think we could get Desmond Ridder playing in the 60s? Now, listen, there's a chance that Desmond Ridder is going to be gone like that, right? That maybe they have him for a week or two, they cut him loose, and he's never back on the roster. There's a chance that they have him on the roster this week, as I'm going to go back to this previous tweet. Tom Pelissero said, veteran quarterback Desmond Ridder signed into the Packers practice squad per a source. With Jordan Love and Malik Willis dealing with injuries and Green Bay locked into the number 7 seed, Ridder could be elevated for Sunday's game versus Minnesota. And people went on to talk about how the systems are similar, right? Again, to the best of my knowledge, he's with the Vikings, okay? And being with the Vikings, that's Kevin O'Connell's system. That's from the Sean McVay tree, okay? The Shanahan tree, if you will. So the terminology would be very similar. That's somebody that you could probably plug and play if you needed to. To me, the writing's on the wall, kind of like, okay, you're definitely not going to play Love this week. I think that would be silly, in my opinion. Malik Willis, if there's any chance of further injuring him, I'm sitting him too. I would march out Desmond Ridder, as your starter and Clayton Tune as the backup, and you're probably going to take an L and get your guys healthy for the playoff run, right? So, with that being said, that's kind of where I think this is going to. But again, we can't just write off Ridder based off of the past, right? And what Matt LaFleur has been able to do with these quarterbacks. I think it's a really, really interesting topic. I do. And again, I think it's something that we need to give him a chance if they decide to make him a part of the future. It's all going to come down to what Malik Willis does, right? Donovan Schilling says 4 years, 40 million fully guaranteed with the eye emoji and the eyeglass emoji. No, no, thank you. I would not do that. I don't think he'd have to do that now listen, he may get priced out, right? There may be a team that says, hey, we want to give you a 3-year, $60 million deal with 20 million guaranteed, right? If that happens, then obviously your take here would make sense. I don't see them doing a fully guaranteed contract. Now, would they do 4 years, 40 million with 30 million guaranteed? I don't think it sounds horrible with the way Malik's played, And listen, I'm a firm believer Jordan Love is a starting quarterback, and he is a better quarterback than Malik Willis. And I may be in the minority with this. I want to make my opinion very clear here. However, you can never rule out a possibility that Malik Willis continues to shine and takes that job from Jordan Love at some point. I know that sounds silly with all the guaranteed money out there. I don't think that'll happen. It's not what I want to happen. Based off what I've seen, I think Jordan Love's a better quarterback. However, we've seen it happen in the past. There's precedent for that. There really is. You think about players like Drew Bledsoe got the bag in New England. I know we're going back some time. Tom Brady comes in, gives them a better chance to win. They waffle back and forth a little bit, then they move forward Tom Brady. And now imagine if they had stuck with Drew Bledsoe and let Tom Brady walk, right? That's why I'm on the team of, if there's any way possible that you overpay a little bit for Malik Willis to be your backup quarterback, I'm okay with it because it's a tier 1 position of importance. So important, right? And again, when you look at how Malik Willis has played, well, we always say you're willing to overpay for great. You're not willing to overpay for good. How has Malik Willis played? He's played great. He's played great. I can't say otherwise. I can't. Chris in the chat says Malik's been worth about 3 wins per season. That's got to be worth way more than 10 million per. I can't argue with that, Chris. I can't. Because again, man, he's come in and he's kind of changed the offense, and really what it's done is it throws a change up on other defenses, right? They spend the whole time preparing for Jordan Love, preparing how we're going to attack defenses with more of a pocket passing quarterback. Not that Jordan Love can't scramble, because we know he can. We've seen that time and time again, but not like Malik Willis cracking 19 and 20 mile an hour, right? I think that's a very fair point, man. I really do. And again, I just don't think there's got to be a walking away point, right, for not bringing back someone like a Malik Willis. There's got to be a point where you go, okay, yeah, that's too much money. We're not going to do that. What's that number for you? For me, I think it probably is once you get into 12 million, something like that. It's like, okay, if you think that highly of him, then yeah, sign him to a long-term deal, and that's going to be your franchise quarterback. I don't see it that way right now, right? So it's going to be really, really interesting for sure. Fishy Thing says Willis would be the perfect possible replacement for Lamar Jackson. You could run the same exact offense with him. And they probably feel similar with Snoop Huntley, to be honest with you, Fishy Things, in Baltimore. But I'm with you. I think Malik's better than Snoop Huntley. Snoop Huntley's one of those quarterbacks too. I want to say he hit the market for a short time. I could be wrong. You guys fact check me on that. But I want to say he was available because I remember thinking, boy, I'd love to have him as a backup quarterback. Holy cow. Because I thought he was a solid backup quarterback. But yeah, Malik Willis in Baltimore's offense would be really interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. I don't, man. It's really interesting. Some people think there's absolutely no chance he won't be in Baltimore. But, man, this league is weird things happen. You look up in a couple of years and things are totally different, right? So, going to be, like I said, going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds. I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. How do you feel about the whole Desmond Ridder thing? Do you think, no, we kind of caught lightning in a bottle with Malik Willis and won't happen with Ridder? A good way to compare it is Ridder. If Malik Willis didn't have his speed, his athleticism, his agility, his quick burst, and his ability to make those plays on the run, how good of a quarterback would he be? That's the true measure of a quarterback. And that's probably why I'm not on board with the people who say Malik Willis is better than Jordan Love. If you remove Malik Willis's ability to scramble, How would he stack up as a quarterback against Jordan Love? I think Jordan Love is significantly better. Okay, so I want my quarterback to play quarterback. I don't want my quarterback to be a scrambling quarterback. If he can do both, that's great. And Willis has proven he can do both, just not the pocket passing aspect to the level in which Jordan's done it. And maybe it's we haven't seen a large enough sample size. But let us know in the comments how you feel about that whole situation. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live with these live shows here in the future. One last thing I want to hit on here real quick, guys, is information that came out a few minutes ago. And I think it came from Matt LaFleur at his presser, if I remember correctly. So it's bad news, but we're not surprised. And that is, of course, the injury to Nate Hobbs and Zane Anderson. This kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect this. And this is what Easton Butler tweeted out. Matt LaFleur, obviously the presser, says, does not anticipate safety Zane Anderson with the ankle or cornerback Nate Hobbs with the knee to be back in time for the playoffs. Both left Saturday's game against the Ravens with injuries. This is huge, man. And I know people like to pile on Nate Hobbs like he's a horrible football player. I don't think he's a horrible football player. Ever since he got here, he's been banged up. And listen, there were people in the chat when we signed Nate Hobbs. I specifically remember when we signed him, I went and looked at the tape. I went and looked at the analytics, the grades and everything. And I was like, I can see this signing. You got a guy that's a little bit versatile. He could play in the slot. They're probably going to want to try to play him outside. They did. That failed, right, in my opinion. And maybe he could get better. But there were people in the chat going, he's just as injured as Jair Alexander is. And if somebody in the chat were one of the people that were saying that, take credit for it right now. I remember specifically in the chat, and I'm going, okay, yeah, he's been banged. That doesn't mean he can't be healthy here. And they wouldn't sign him. They're going to vet the process out. They wouldn't sign him if they thought he's going to get hurt. And I don't think that they had any indication of the physical and everything that, like, okay, this dude can't stay healthy, or else they wouldn't have signed him, right? So I do push back a little bit there. But the reality is, since day one, gets into training camp, and he laid that hit on Marshawn Lloyd. You guys remember that? And that was a big controversy in camp that he shouldn't have done that, and caused a little scuffle at practice. And then it was shortly after that he was hurt, and he's been banged up ever since. So whoever said that in the comments, you guys were right. Now, does that mean he can't get healthy in the future? I hope not. But up to this point, I mean, you got to call a spade a spade. That's the way it's been. And it looks like you're going to be without him in the playoffs. Zane Anderson's another dude, man. He's played pretty good football for us when he's had his opportunity, but every year we get to the playoffs and he's banged up, right? Now, listen, he's not getting paid the amount of money that obviously Nate Hobbs is, right? And I'm going to pull that up over on Packer Spot Track real quick, just so we can get the cap table up so I can kind of see by position exactly we can find it by position. I want to know exactly how the cap lays out from a position standpoint, and kind of get you guys those numbers real quick. So if you'll bear with me just a second, if I can remember, actually, we'll just sort it by that. I'll pop that up here in a second so we can kind of look at the cornerback numbers that are on the roster currently. We'll get to that on the backside here. But again, with Nate Hobbs and the injury, it is what it is, right? He continues to stay banged up. Now, let's talk about what PFF thinks about it, right? So when you go to the PFF grades and you ignore the minimum snaps too, guys, you notice I've ignored the minimum snaps here. And, yeah, these are the only four quarterback. Or not, I'm sorry, I don't think I ignored it. I meant not to ignore it. Let me zoom out real quick. Okay, we don't want to – ignore them. Yeah, that's what we want to do. So you want to get the maximum players, and no matter how many snaps they played. Guys, we got four corners. You know what's crazy is Bo Melton. Like, I thought he played a little bit of corner this year. Has he not played a single snap of cornerback for the Packers? I know we moved him from receiver to corner, and the next thing you know, we're in season, he's back to receiver. But nonetheless, in terms of PFF grades, Kamal Hadden leading the way at a 67.6, only 37 snaps. He's on IR, so move him off the list. Keyshawn Nixon, 67.2. He's healthy, obviously. Carrington Valentine, 65.7. He's healthy. Nate Hobbs now probably not going to be available for the playoffs, as Matt LaFleur was just saying. 61.7. He's not going to be available. You only got two corners, two. And again, we talked about Trayvon Diggs yesterday and the tie he has to Micah Parsons, and he's going to want to sign with the player. As long as there's nothing behind the scenes that's too bad conduct-wise, he's going to want to sign with the team, right, to have a little playoff run here, probably for a minimum. I'm even more on board with that now because I mean, you're down to 2 corners here, right? Now, again, when you go to like our lads, I've got it off to the side here. Here's who they've got listed as corner because we did sign a few players, and there's some players on the practice squad that's probably going to get elevated. But tell me if you guys feel confident about this. Here are your cornerbacks listed. Left cornerback, Keyshawn Nixon. Again, when we say left and right on defense, it's from the defense's perspective, right? So if you're standing back with the defense facing the offense, left corner, right? Left corner is Keyshawn Nixon. Right corner is Carrington Ballantyne. Those guys are healthy, okay? Javon Bullard, your slot corner, thank God, he's healthy, right? So he's good to go. But after that, who do you got on the roster? At left corner, Shamar Bartholomew. And then on the right side, Jalen Simpson. Whoo. Yeah, I think I would go after Trayvon Diggs. And you know, if he plays bad, he plays bad, but you got someone who's got some experience and yeah, you're probably gonna need to do that, man. You're gonna need to do that. So yeah, with that being said, in terms of the cap hit and everything involved there, with these players. Your caps, the cap hit on Nate Hobbs. Let's talk about that real quick. And I'll just pop that up on the screen as we get ready to wrap this thing up. With Nate Hobbs, it's interesting because you've got a guy that, yeah, the contract looked huge on the surface, right? Like, okay, that was their big free agent signing. His cap hit this year was only $5.9 million. And you go, well, Clayton, next year it jumps to 13. It does. However, look at the potential out for this contract. It's after 2020 or it's 2026. 1 year, 18.2 million with 12 million in dead cap essentially is what you got. So again, when you go over and look at the dead cap attached, if you cut Nate Hobbs, you free up $1 million. Okay. Now you got to ask yourself, is it worth it to get Nate Hobbs another shot next year? Right. Knowing that he's had injury history and everything, I think it's worth it to try to bring him back because, again, the only amount of cap space you're going to free up is $1 million. No, give him a shot. Maybe it works out. Maybe it pans out, right? And then after that, in 2027, his cap hit jumps to 14 million. However, the dead cap attached is only 8 million. Now you're looking at saving some significant cap space. So for me, I would want Nate Hobbs back next year to give it another shot because it's not worth it to give up on that project for just to save $1 million. Now, if your argument is, but he's eating up a roster spot, I don't think that's a very good argument. Now, if the argument is we have to start him because he's making 13 million, no. I'm not on board with that. You shouldn't have to start anybody based off their salary. You should want to put the best players on the freaking field, right? So that's my personal opinion there on how the Nate Hobbs situation kind of sits. It's really, really, again, the fact that he's not going to be available for the playoffs. For the people who are saying that Nate Hobbs, that was a swing and a miss by Goody, I can't disagree up to this point, you know. But again, the truth is always somewhere in the middle, you know. Some fans make it sound like he broke the bank for him, and that's just not the case. It's not. He's one of the cheaper cornerbacks signed in free agency. Again, when you just look at the numbers that the agents release when they're signed, they're blimping that number up. They're trying to make it look like the maximum value possible, right? In all honesty, you got to kind of read between the lines, look at the guaranteed money, look where the potential out is, start comparing the cap hit to cap penalty and when you can actually get out. So going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds there. We got a super chat from Andy Dubs. Thank you so much, buddy. Says, Clay, no free agent cornerbacks. Would you give a shot? I haven't dug too deep into it, Andy, but seeing that we got two cornerbacks that have snaps that are healthy, well, and Javon Bullard, he's listed as a safety, obviously. So it's actually 3 on the roster. I'd be open to signing a free agent. The one that I talked about was Stephon Gilmore. I know he retired, but obviously you can come out of retirement quick. Now, has he stayed in shape? I don't know. That's one that kind of grabs my attention a little bit. Not like this is the key to us going on a run and winning the Super Bowl, but he's one that comes to mind that it wouldn't hurt to get some veteran presence in that locker room. You know what I mean? In that cornerback room with them. So that's the one that kind of comes to mind for me. Plus, of course, we talked about Trayvon Diggs. To me, Trayvon Diggs is making more and more sense. Now, will he go to Green Bay? I don't know. You know, him and Micah Parsons supposedly are best friends. I had never heard that until he was released. So I don't know if they're actually best friends. What does best friend mean? I don't know. You guys, yeah. Anyway, so I'm open to that too. I mean, because it's going to come down to Bartholomew and Shamar, right? It's like, what do you what do you do? You know, what's the goal here? If you're going to try to go on a run, yes, you know, but um, yeah, I don't know, man. It just I think that there's a decent chance that they go back to their draft board too and go, okay, what cornerbacks were we high on the draft and that are available that are on a practice squad? We could just sign and activate real quick. That could be the case, but yeah. I keep seeing this name mentioned a lot. Andy Dove says Asante Samuel Jr. still available. I thought he signed with Pittsburgh. I could be wrong, but I think he plays for the Steelers. Andy, I believe. I'm almost positive there because that was when we were very interested in it. Like hindsight's 2020, but looking back, kind of wish we had done that, right? That would have made a lot of sense to go pick him up. So, but again, you don't expect the injuries to continue to pile up like that either. But it comes back to making your roster better every chance you get. But you have to have a cost benefit analysis along the way too. You can't just go, okay, let's sign him, let's sign him, let's sign him. It don't matter what the number is. I don't subscribe to that. Caterpillar with the super. Thank you so much, Caterpillar. I'm all for signing Diggs. Yay gets cooked. But so does Nixon. Might as well put someone back there that's better at taking the ball away. Formula seems to work for Chicago. It's wild what Chicago's done with the takeaways, man. And you know what's crazy about that too? I've told you guys that sooner or later you got to look up and say it's not luck. They're just good at taking the ball away, and I'm to that point. But every damn time it happens, I'm like, what a horrible throw! What a horrible decision! It's not like they're doing anything miraculous. The ball will get tipped up in the air and go right to the. It's like I say that because I kind of talked about this last year. The Packers takeaways. That's what we did last year, right? Interceptions were through the roof. This year, you can't hardly buy one, right? Some of those things are a little fluky, and that's why you got to be careful. And not that you're doing this, Caterpillar. I know you're not, but when people will go and say, okay, which cornerback had the most interceptions? That's the guy I want. Some of those can be fluky. That's why it's important to grade how a coach grades, right? You look at the tape and you go, okay, what was his assignment? Did he perform his assignment? Did he know what his assignment was, and did he try to perform that assignment? How was his execution, and what's his effort look like? And to me, those things, sometimes interceptions can be a byproduct of that, but also you can get a little bit fluky with that type of stuff. And then you look up and go, oh, wow, yeah, he wasn't that good. It's just the ball kind of bounced his way, if that makes sense. So, yeah. But again, you guys know cornerback, it don't matter who you got a cornerback if you're not good in the trenches. Just the way it is. You can go spend a buku of money on a cornerback, and if you don't have a pass rush and you can't stop the run, that dude is as good as not even on your roster, right? That's why it's important to build these tier positions, right? Again, 3-tech, edge defender, offensive tackle, quarterback, of course, and then from there, center, stack backer, post safety. Notice I don't mention corner because I'm telling you, man, offenses can take corners right out of the game plan. They can go, all right, we're just not going to throw toward him, or yes, they can attack a corner, but they can't attack the corner if they got a pass rush in their face and you're playing a little press or you're playing a little hard flat look where you're really aggressive underneath, and they got to have time to finish that 3 and 5 step drop to get the ball in that second window. That's why it's so important to build in the building the trenches, man. Both sides of the ball. That's where it needs to be. So that's all I got, guys. So we got you several different breaking news updates here. Again, we signed a quarterback. You got Nate Hobbs injury updates. Obviously, bad news, but I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. And thank you for that super chat there, Caterpillar. Appreciate you. Let us know in the comments. You're watching this back later. How do you feel about the Nate Hobbs injury? Do you think the Packers are better off without him? Do you think he move on next year? Do you think we're going to miss him? I think they're going to miss him. I thought he was playing a little bit better, in my opinion. When every time he starts to come back and he starts to get his feet under him, he just gets injured again. There's nothing you can do about that. So with that being said, let us know in the comments how you feel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Appreciate everybody jumping in here on short notice. I was planning on doing a 15-minute show, and then all this news began to break. So that's why I had to set the show back 30 minutes and kind of prep everything. But hopefully we got you all the information. So with that being said, everybody go celebrate New Year's. Have an awesome night. Be safe. As we always say, if you drink, don't drive, do the watermelon crawl. All right. Be responsible out there. Take care of one another. And hopefully everybody's 2025 went great. 2026 goes even better. So we'll be back tomorrow for PTA at some point. Might do a live stream with the guys tomorrow evening. We got a lot of stuff we need to dig into. Obviously, the holidays are throwing a wrench and everything. So I'm excited getting back on track with the different a little more consistent schedule. But appreciate everybody's patience. So thank y'all so much. Y'all have a happy New Year. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.